Yo, what's good, fam? Welcome back to the Shen Trading Daily. Today, we're going to spill the tea on Bitcoin's Doomsday scenario. How low could this bad boy drop? If you're feeling this content, smash that like button, hit subscribe, share it around, and ring that bell. Let's dive in. So, let's talk Bitcoin, fam. How low could this pullback go in the worst case scenario? Let's peep that Bitcoin weekly chart. Yesterday, we closed below the bull market support line and the 200-day moving average again. These past few weeks ain't looking too hot on the weekly, fam. We're seeing these up and down wicks, but basically closing at the same spot each time. Now, we've been chilling below the bull market support and 200-day MA for 3 weeks straight. I'm thinking Bitcoin's got a bit more downside in the short term, but how low could we go in the worst case? In a previous vid, I hinted that I don't think we'll drop below 49,100. That should be the bottom for this pullback. I reckon we'll probably bounce somewhere between 51,000 and 53,000. Now let's compare this to 2019. A lot of peeps are drawing parallels between Bitcoin's 2024 moves and 2019. Why? The pattern's pretty similar, fam. Check it out. The 2024 chart and the 2019 chart both started strong, then entered this long sideways consolidation phase. Now, I hear some of y'all saying, but in 2019, Bitcoin didn't break the previous cycle's high. True that. In 2019, we topped out around 14,000, which was about 30% shy of the previous cycle's peak. This time around, we've already smashed past the last cycle's high. We hit over 70,000, beating the previous 69,000 peak. But let me give you a different perspective on this, fam. In 2019, we didn't have the inflation problem we've got now. These past 2 years, inflation's been wild. I'm living in the States, so I can only speak to what I'm seeing here. But whether it's food, general shopping, or everyday items, I reckon inflation's been over 35 to 40%, maybe even hitting 50%. Basically, everything's about 50% more expensive. If we factor that in, Bitcoin at 70,000 today might only have the buying power of 40,000 to 50,000 back then. If we pull that 69,000 peak down by 30%, just like the 2019 cycle, we'd be looking at about 49,000. So if you account for inflation, a 70,000 Bitcoin in 2024 might be equivalent to a 50,000 Bitcoin because of the inflation factor. That's my take on comparing these cycles, fam. So even though the 2019 peak was about 30% below the previous high, we didn't have that inflation problem back then. That's why we might be able to compare the 2019 moves to what we're seeing now. Let's rewind to 2019. It started off pretty lit, pumping up to about 14,000 by mid-year. Then it entered this super long sideways consolidation phase. We're talking a 6-month grind, fam. During that time, it kept making lower highs and lower lows. If we look at it seasonally, like month by month, it hit a new low in August or September. Then it dropped to another low at the end of the year before finally turning around and heading up. It broke above the bull market support line and the 200-day MA, and it looked like it was about to pop off. But then bam, the 2020 pandemic hit and it tanked again. Now, if we look at the 2024 chart, it's looking mad similar. For the past 6 months, Bitcoin's been making lower highs and lower lows. We're in August now, so could we see a similar pattern? Maybe we keep grinding lower until we hit this trend line, bounce a bit, then start heading up again. I mean, we don't see any pandemic-level black swan risks in 2024 right now. So if we don't get hit with any crazy surprises, this last bottom touch could be the start of the next big bull run. Y'all notice where that last lower low might hit if we touch that bottom trend line? It's around 49,000 to 50,000. That's a bit higher than the spike low we saw at 49,000. Coincidence? I don't think so, fam. If Bitcoin does head south, it might touch that downtrend line again around September, hitting that 49,000 to 51,000 zone. If it finds support there and breaks above the 200-week MA and bull market support line, that could be the kickoff for the next big bull run. So I'm thinking the worst case scenario for this Bitcoin pullback is probably around 49,000 to 50,000. I don't see it breaking below that previous low of 49,100. So keep your eyes peeled, fam. If Bitcoin pulls back to 49,000 or just over 50,000, that could be a killer buying opportunity. September's also when we might start seeing interest rate cuts. That's only about a month away. So even if Bitcoin hits around 50,000 in September, we're not that far off. It's just over a month away. If you haven't stacked enough sats yet, use this last month to DCA and load up on more Bitcoin. Okay, let's peep this news about Bitcoin possibly heading back to 50K. This headline's pretty close to what we've been chatting about, Bitcoin potentially pulling back. There are 5 things we need to watch this week. Let's break down what this writer's saying. First up, there's no talk of the BTC price upside. Basically, fewer peeps are hyping up Bitcoin's potential to moon. Everyone's all doom and gloom, talking about how low we might go or if the bull runs over. Not many folks are out here saying Bitcoin's going to hit 100K by year end or 200K to 300K next year. The overall market vibe is kind of negative, you feel me? One analyst dropped this bomb. BTC has chopped for the last 160 to 170 days. This is more painful than a bear market. Now, I gotta disagree with that take. I'm betting whoever said that hasn't lived through a real Bitcoin bear market. In a legit bear, we're not just chopping sideways for 160 to 170 days. We're bleeding out, maybe dropping 50 to 60%. If you think this 6-month sideways action is tough, you've probably never been through a real bear market, fam. These consolidation periods are actually super healthy for Bitcoin's long-term growth. It's like we're building a solid foundation for the next leg up. Think about it. If Bitcoin shoots up to 170K or 180K in the next bull run, where do you think it'll bottom out in the bear market after that? Probably somewhere between 50K to 70K. So this 6-month grind is setting us up with some serious support for the future. If you're in this for the long haul, like 5 to 10 years down the road, this sideways action should be no biggie. It's just a blip on the radar. The analyst also thinks Bitcoin might pull back to 51,500, but probably won't break below 49,100. That's pretty much in line with what I'm thinking. Next up, everyone's waiting on Fed Chair Powell's speech at Jackson Hole this Friday. There's no FOMC meeting in August, so this Jackson Hole talk is going to be huge. Whatever Powell says could shake up expectations for September's rate cut. Third point, Bitcoin miners hold while they outflows. Miners haven't been selling much Bitcoin lately. If we look at the chart, we can see miners were dumping like crazy since November 2023. But recently, that trend's been cooling off. During the pump from late last year to early this year, miners were selling pretty fast. That's smart investing, fam. When Bitcoin first broke 63K to 64K, I started taking some profits too. I took even more off the table when we hit 70K. I've talked about all this in my shows before. Now that we're in this 6-month sideways grind, miners aren't selling as much. That's definitely something to keep an eye on. The fourth point they're talking about is BTC market dominance falter. Basically, they're saying Bitcoin's slice of the crypto pie is shrinking. But I'm not sure how they're measuring this faltering. Are they just looking at the past week? Because if you zoom out, Bitcoin's dominance is still looking pretty strong long term. Looks like they're only focused on the last 3 days when they talk about Bitcoin's dominance dropping. That's some serious short-term thinking, fam. A lot of mainstream media and investors are like this. They only see what's right in front of them, but the fact is, Bitcoin's dominance is still in an uptrend. I don't see any real signs of it faltering in just a few days. Last point they're making is about bearish sentiment with trend line out of reach. Basically, the market's feeling pretty down because Bitcoin's below some major support levels. One of those is the 200-day moving average, and the other is the bull market support line. When we're trading below these key trend lines, yeah, the market's going to feel a bit bearish. That's just how it goes. So the overall market vibe is kind of negative right now, but that makes sense. We're below these important lines. Anytime Bitcoin's chilling below the bull market support and 200-day MA, it's telling us the short to mid-term trend is looking a bit bearish. Those 5 points are what this report says we need to watch this week. That's all for today, fam. Y'all gotta have that independent thinking game on lock if you want to survive in this crazy investment world. That's the secret sauce to staying in the game long term. No cap. If you're vibing with today's content, do your boy a solid and smash that like button, hit subscribe, share this heat with your homies, and don't forget to ring that bell for more dope content. Catch you on the flip side tomorrow, fam. Stay savage, stay HODL, and remember, when in doubt, zoom out. Peace out.